Well, hi Garth. Good to see you again. Been a little while.
Yeah, thanks, David. Yeah, it's been some weeks, but nice to catch up again.
Yeah, always. Look, we're going to summertime now, aren't we? If you cast your mind back about 2 years ago, we're looking at bushfires and those kinds of things. And I think that's one of the topics we're looking at today in terms of actually people looking to purchase purchase property during summertime and actually considering things like bushfire risks. It's interesting because we were talking before the session, and you'd given me a figure about like Sydney properties at risk from bushfires.
Yeah, I was looking at an article from the Sydney Morning Herald in 2019, and it mentioned that around about 300,000 residents are potentially affected by bushfire because of the build-up of fuel in those timbered areas, uh,
Hmm.
and mixed that with strong winds and hot weather.
Hmm.
It really could lead to more trouble like we had a few years back. And
Yeah.
it, it,
That's a really, I mean, it's one of those things that people never think about, is it? Like you go and you look at a property, even people from overseas, and they're looking at property, they think to themselves, look, we're just buying a property, and they might be looking to either build or buy. Um, but yeah, look, you've done a fair bit of research in this area, Garth, and you've got some stories to tell as well. So tell us what you know about bushfires and the risks of bushfires in terms of property.
yeah, well, it's often a risk that's overlooked when buying a property. There's, like you see the property, fall in love, you just want to buy it. But really wanted to encourage purchasers and vendors and practitioners really just to take a step back and think about the aspect of fire,
Hmm.
particularly from bushfires in the summer season as we come over that Christmas period into January, February, even December.
Yep.
And uh, it's a risk to really keep in mind because it affects. I had an example recently of some people that brought a property up near Newcastle, inland from there,
Mhm.
and I think it's called Payne's Crossing. It's a funny little area out of in the inland there. From
Is it a Y in that or is it an I in that? Which one?
it's a PAY Payne NES Payne's Crossing. It's a funny sort of name, and apparently it's got two postcodes. So,
Hopefully it's easy to cross. It's not a pain to cross. Sorry, poor joke there, but anyway.
and yeah, we were acting for the purchasers, and they brought some vacant land, and they picked out a spot where they wanted to build their dream home.
Hmm.
And I said to them, "Look, you've got to watch out because there's so much timber was around when you look at the satellite picture of the lot of land they were purchasing."
Hmm.
And I said, "Look, you've got to be very, very careful of where you build this home, and because it depends on the history of fires that have come through that area,
Mm.
and the devastation and the direction that they've come. And if that land is classified as bushfire prone land, which it was in the council zoning certificate, there will be regulations as to what type of construction, the location, and what vegetation needs to be removed. So that's going to be extra costs that would be needed in that area. So what we did, our friends there at Lotsearch, excellent report that they prepare. It looked at whether it was bushfire prone land, reconfirmed that. They looked at the contours of the land, like how high it was, because if you've got a building up the top of a mountain, the fire tends to roar straight up
Mm.
with the wind that comes through. So we looked at all the contours there on the map there, and the history of fire is really interesting. I mean, I know it sounds a bit nerdy, but all the fires of the
No.
last 30 years that have come through that area, what years they were like arrows on a map,
Yeah.
um, and where they came from, and how much land was destroyed. It even had some vegetation classification
Hmm.
on that map as well, um, and yeah, it was a very, very good report from Lotsearch there. So I wanted to really alert practitioners to, when they see it on that InfoTrack platform, to actually order one. I was talking to a conveyancer out at Young this morning, and she said she orders that all the time because it's a big risk, along with the contamination of land risk as well that we spoke about last time. So there's some really good reports that are coming out from Lotsearch when it comes to risks and trying to quantify that with bushfire.
I guess so the conveyancer or the legal practitioner would go and they'd order the lot search and come back and they'd charge it back to the client, etc. But I mean, what would the lawyer or the conveyancer do with that report? They'd actually alert the client as to what the risks are, right?
Yeah. So it's not a requirement for a vendor to disclose that in a contract. It'll probably come up in the council certificate. But even if it does, it's a good idea when you're acting for a purchaser is to order that bushfire report from Lotsearch, and it really adds value and it really enlightens the purchaser of what they need to budget for and to be aware of that risk and how to mitigate that. And potentially they might have to move where they want to build that home on that land to another area.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, it's easy enough now because of the restrictions are sort of, I guess, having eased. But I think there's actually overseas purchases of property that may not be across this sort of stuff. And I think them knowing and having comfort that their lawyer or their conveyancer is actually doing the purchase with this. I mean, they may well actually, can they order one themselves?
Oh, they can do that direct if they wanted to, yeah. But it's nice to have a practitioner there that, if they're competent and really care about their client and have a checklist of risks that could pop out of nowhere, and have that ability to do that, I think it's good to for a practitioner to take the initiative, and to really provide that to them. And it's not a costly report. It's I think it adds a lot of value to the service and to the outcome for the client and the practitioner.
Look, definitely. It's one of those things that you'd be actually asking a practitioner about in terms of are they looking at all the different angles and the different risks of a property that you're out to purchase or that's interesting. Is there any other risks that you think people should be considering over the summertime period in terms of purchasing?
Yeah, probably the access to water, I think, is another way too on the land there. You know, how far away is the water? Because that's going to be another consideration when you're building a home or adding another dwelling to a property. The access to water to fight a fire and how much vegetation you might need to clear out. I mean, these people up at Paynes Crossing, it was like Amazon forest. It was full on with pine trees just covering up basically the whole lot. And, they had all these different dirt roads with easements and access from other property owners as well to get through their property, get to another property.
Wow.
So, and I found it really interesting too. I was watching a documentary on firefighting, particularly those fires 2 years ago, and those trucks, and they need to get in there and get access, and the local council could easily say, well, we need a cleared zone there to keep the fire from breaking the fire break as well. So.
I was thinking to myself, you might have been watching a firefighting video or documentary to like fulfill a childhood ambition or something like that, Garth, to be a firefighter or something. Very noble people they are, very, very noble people.
Well, it was interesting. I mean, these trucks, they had little sprinklers on the front, and it was all, water running down all the glass, and it was trying to keep the heat out, because when you drive through those fires, the heat radiates from the glass, and it was interesting trying to keep the cabin cool. It's a risky job dealing with those fires.
Oh, honestly, they're just noble people. Totally. Biggest level of respect goes out to those guys that actually do that sort of work and things. I think it's quite amazing. But you hope that it sort of never comes to that because of because you've done your research, you've got a lot of different protections in place. So one question I've got then is around insurance. I mean, wouldn't your insurance premiums actually be? How does knowing what you know about these lots actually affect your insurance premiums?
Well, they will increase if they know you're in a bushfire-prone zone. But if you're able to send to the insurer a report like Lotsearch prepares, and what you've done to your lot, what you've cleared out, what you've done to try and mitigate the risk, I'm sure the insurers would look upon that and reassess the application at a reduced rate because the risk would be reduced.
What's somebody up for in terms of a report? Like, what's it cost?
I think it's around $90.
Geez, I tell you what, you might get a decent old. I mean, I'm just speculating. You might get a decent old saving on insurance if you know what you're up for and things. And I mean, that's just nothing compared to knowing what's there and the risks of it.
Yeah, and you've got a company that uses data sets from over a long period of time that's able to map these different occurrences onto a nice diagram. There's not too much, words on there. It's mainly more of a diagram of legends and things. So it's not complicated, and I think it's a fantastic way to add to the service of a legal practitioner wherever you are in Australia.
So, Garth, business is booming. Property clearance rates are high. I mean, basically things are, property prices are rising. Business is good and that sort of stuff. Why are practitioners going to be worried about all these risks?
Well, you don't want to get sued. It's very easy for that to happen. And you want to try and offer a full service. You don't want to be one of these legal service providers that, like a cookie cutter.
Yep.
Just churn them out and minimal fuss, minimal care, and take on all that risk. It's so much better when you can slow it down. You charge well for what you do. You cover the risks. You have, if you're going to do it once, do it well, and don't skimp on those sort of things. Don't compete on price. Be very careful about which client you work for and who you don't. The best clients are always been previous clients, particularly if you've kept in touch with them once a month. We had a webinar yesterday I was presenting on, and the importance of doing that rather than chasing new business. I remember a lawyer on the Gold Coast there, he decided to, that bus advertising?
Yep.
He spent about $50,000 on that and didn't get one inquiry. It would have been easier and a lot more cost effective, better results by keeping in touch with his clients at least once a month. Those previous ones.
Couldn't agree more.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel and go down, and you need to concentrate on those previous ones where there's trust.
But do you reckon, I mean, it's actually an interesting thing. I know we're going off topic, but that's what you and I always do when we do these sort of sessions, because it makes it more interesting, doesn't it? It sort of gets you on the spot there with some questions, and you end up answering them really well. But I mean, if I'm actually, I'm a lawyer, a really great lawyer, I do my lawyering stuff really well, practice really well. But I mean, I pick up the phone and talking to somebody to say, how's things and that sort of stuff. I mean, how does a call like that work, Garth?
Well, my advice is don't sell. Just ask them how they're going, what they've been up to. Look at the previous file and what some of the conversations you had. How have you been? How's your kids? How's your family? This call is not to try and get you to do anything, but just to say hello.
Yeah,
it's amazing what that can do. There's so many lonely people out there.
Yeah, no, I totally
so many
agree.
lonely people. It's amazing,
Yeah, I'd actually say so. Lawyer I've used in the past, basically, it's just incredible. I mean, as you may know, my wife's been pretty ill, and when she was at the worst of times, I got a call from my lawyer, and the lawyer said, look, I heard on the grapevine that basically that things were actually not going out, and she was just so incredible. My lawyer was so incredible. She was amazing. She basically said, don't give up, keep on going, push through this, you can do it, that things going to be all right and things. And I would absolutely, every bit of work we do, we give it to it, because they're good people. They check in on us and that sort of stuff. They, every 6 months or a couple of months, they might give us a call and say, how'd that thing go? Oh, the last transaction, how's the last transaction going? How'd you go with that business? I mean, we basically work with them to acquire businesses and things. So, I mean, I think that there's a lot of merit there. And I think just being genuine, I think authenticity and being genuine are key things. I mean, trying to create conversation and small talk too much. I think it's a case of, as you say, be well researched, call up, ask the questions, understand maybe some situations in the area. If there's things that are going on, it might be things that are topical, things might be bits of information you can give them. So, for example, there might be results of the pandemic and property, or might be some other sort of areas. Well, but you're getting that call. You think to yourself, like, heck, that's so amazing. Like they're actually either commenting on my business or where I am at.
Yeah, I've also found that I send gifts too, like some wine deliveries to clients, have them delivered to their door, and really good people to work with. And I think that has been a really good way of developing good client relationships as well.
But that's a great idea. I mean, I've seen people send, actually classic one, right? There was somebody who sent a, and we haven't, we're not that creative. We've got to be a lot more creative. So, but somebody said, let's have a virtual cup of coffee. So basically what they did was virtual cup of coffee and cake. So what they did was they got onto Uber and they had the coffee and the cake delivered to the person for the virtual coffee. I just thought it was gold. It's absolute gold, honestly.
That's that's one out of the box. That one.
It is. It's actually great, isn't it? It's a great one. But so maybe we'll sort of see some cups of coffee and some cake coming from Garth Brown in the
Well, it's something I'll probably try on one or two clients and see how that goes. Yeah, I have met a couple of clients at times face to face at a coffee.
Yeah,
and had a chat. It was quite good too.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's great. I mean, this time of the year, it's also great to catch up with some of them as well. We've sort of started having meetings again with face to face with people, and it's just fantastic. It just makes such a difference, that human connection. That I mean, there's so much you can do virtually. Yeah. But it's funny. You sort of even people's height. Like you think to yourself, that guy's really, really tall, and he's sorry, that's my dog barking there, so I have to excuse it. But Milo the dog. So people you think are really, really tall, but they're not so tall, or they're people look different sort of ways, or they look different. It's actually funny. I mean, the fact is, I use a booster seat to actually look, it's nearly 7 foot tall. It doesn't really work that in real life, though.
Yeah. Look, this is what I brought out yesterday in this presentation was that I try and focus more on the client and what they're experiencing. Mm-hmm. More on that rather than the transaction. Even though the transaction's got to be done properly, that's a human aspect of connection with them.
Yeah.
And that is something that it can be very disjointed across the legal profession. I've done a number of courses on how to connect with people with heart harmony.
Okay.
Trying to be on the same page as them. And adapt, like when Rome, do what the Romans do, or when you're in Greece, do what the Greeks do.
When you're in Melbourne, do what the Melbournians do.
Yeah, so it's really being adaptable of your personality. You don't want to be a dry lawyer or conveyancer that doesn't care and doesn't seem to take an interest in your client, because that is not a good recipe for a good business relationship.
What about if you're a firm of people with some shy folks now who's not their bag?
Well, shyness can be confused sometimes with being reserved. And it does take a bit of coaching. And the best thing to overcome shyness is to pick up the phone and ask how they are, and think about questions you can ask them, and how you can help them before you pick up the phone, I think is a good way of going about trying to overcome shyness. I know I was a shy person younger in life, and the best way I found to overcome that was to, when you meet someone new, put out your hand and say, "Hello, I'm Garth."
Or maybe these days it's your elbow.
Or
your foot, or whatever they do these days. I'm not kind of sure.
But I find that's a really good way to overcome shyness and to build up confidence and strength with that.
Yeah. You were never shy, Garth, honestly. I can say I think you maybe thought you were, but you were never shy. But I think you're always a very affable, sort of gregarious sort of character in your youth. And then going into your adulthood as well. But yeah, look, I think it's actually interesting. So we've gone from bushfires to. But look, I think you're right. I think basically going back to the core topic. I mean, I guess what it's about is people want to work with a trusted advisor, and part of that trust is actually rapport. And with rapport, that's about understanding people's situation and also and providing some of the little bits and pieces that people would never think of, and things like bushfire reports and other reports as well. You can provide to sort of say, hey, look, I've been thinking about you and thinking where you're building and that sort of stuff. I ordered this thing. Here it is. This is what I'm doing. And maybe some people build that in their prices. Go, we provide a full service, a deluxe service. We'll not use the word deluxe, but we provide a full service. You don't have to think about anything else. We just know that we've got your back.
These clients love what I did. They didn't even think about bushfire. When they got the report, they loved it.
Yeah.
So it made it easier for everything to be paid and finalised and to work with.
Yeah.
It just drew practitioner and client closer together.
And no doubt you could actually, tear around to their place at Payne's. What's it? Payne's Crossing for a
Crossing.
Payne's Crossing for a cup of tea.
They actually invited me to stay there as a B&B with my wife and my daughter for free. I said, no, we don't do that to you. We pay you if we ever come.
Yeah.
I don't do that sort of stuff. But they always want me to drop in and say hello, if I'm in the area, not just there, but also in Sydney. But yeah, they're characters. And
Mark of a great client, mark of a great relationship, hey?
if people trust you and they like you, you're across the line. And I don't think there's that's what real estate agents. I learn a lot from them too. You know how some of them go to charm school.
Really?
Yeah, it's
People
called
charm.
charm.
I
It's
thought it was
called
like,
charm school.
really?
Yeah.
What do
You
they
know,
do at
there's a
charm school?
school.
Like, that is just crazy. What do they do at charm school?
Well, they try and how they deal and the compliments that they make to the client, and trying to make
Oh,
it genuine, and
Lord.
how they dress, and the cars that they drive, the clothes that they wear, and the compliments that they give out, and it's a bit of.
You know what? It feels like a big can of spring as cheese, like spray cheese. You know, do you know the
Well, I
best
think
thing?
if you're authentic,
Exactly.
but charm school is a bit wishy-washy and superficial.
Yeah, I just think be the best version of yourself. Be
Yes.
the best version of yourself in front of people. Basically, care about people and ask questions and understand people before you want to be understood. And I think their basic tenets, basic principles of and actually serve well. I mean, at the end of the day, we're in a service game and provide a great service, and I think that's enough. I think but authenticity is a really, really big thing everywhere from sales into professional services. People just want authenticity. They want people to be genuine.
Yeah, and I think if you use your second brain, which really is a gut feel,
Yeah, I agree.
and it's a very, very good indication of whether to do business with someone or not, is a
Yeah,
gut feel.
yeah.
And they always say that your gut feels like a second brain.
Well, funny enough, I was reading something about this, which actually says there is a connection. There's some sort of connection between your gut and your brain, which basically means that they go to themselves, wow, I never thought of that before.
Yeah, and I mean, when I've been working with Lotsearch, I have a really good gut feel with them. They've been very good to me, and
Yeah,
that's why I use their products and encourage practitioners to use them. Lotsearch.com.au or order them on InfoTrack.
yeah, brilliant. Well, Garth, as always, we've covered a multitude of different topics. We haven't solved the world's ills yet, but I'm sure we will at some point in time. Mate, always great to catch up with you. And looking forward to our next chat.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate it. Thank
Cheers,
you.
mate. Okay, thanks.